Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio. We're in the town of Geraldine, Alabama right now. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. Worldwide, you can find us on Abundant TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday. You know you're the apple of my eye. You do hang around with us, and we definitely appreciate that. And thank you for the emails. Really makes my head like kind of swell. Thank you so much for the kind things you're saying. We definitely appreciate that. I have Katie Kirkland with me right now. Katie is very awesome. Before she starts talking about all the awesome things they've got going on Main Street and everywhere in Scottsboro and in Jackson County in particular, just wanted to talk to some of you business folks who are out there and you're thinking about starting a business or maybe expanding your business. Maybe you like Alabama because we're also nice, aren't we, Katie?
Yes, we're so nice.
We're super nice. Hardworking folks who come out and work the jobs. And if you're just thinking about expanding your business, Jackson County would be an awesome place to start because of all the beauty out there. Now, not only we have awesome employees, we also have, we have like super scenery. You got the mountains, you got the lakes, you got everything.
Yeah, the natural resources here are amazing. I mean, there's something for everyone. There's water, there's mountains, so you can hike, you can fish, you can still hang out in a small, quaint downtown, and we're not that far away from bigger cities. So it's kind of the best of both worlds being here.
Mm-hmm. It is a great place to raise a family. The property is, I'm gonna tell you, I looked at a house, Phil and I did, and it was like overlooking the Tennessee River. And it was a section before you go down the mountain. And before you get into Scottsboro, that house sold for less than $200,000 with $1 million view. It was up on top of the mountain. It was on the brow.
That's crazy. I mean, you can get amazing deals here. And especially if you're moving from a bigger city where it's $1 million for just a small house because of, land value there so much more. Coming here, you can get so much more for your money.
Mm-hmm. And school systems, we know how to make kids behave here. So
very much so.
That's another thing. Yeah. So Katie, what's going on?
Yeah, so I'm particularly in downtown and in the city. Of course, it's event season. So we have an event at least once a month, sometimes more than that in our downtown with Trade Days. Trade Day is turning 120 years old this year. So that's kind of crazy that it has been that tradition. And it's the longest running vendor event in the state of Alabama. So we're really proud about that. And every month we have vendors, that's arts and crafts vendors, that's food vendors, and they come and set up around the square along with different activities for the kids. We have a horse and buggy that comes and gives rides for children, and they come from the Walls of Jericho campground. And they're actually the tallest team of horses in the South. They're 19 and a half hands tall. So I think that's really cool for the kids. They get to see these really beautiful horses running around. And so that happens every month, and that's just kind of like an event for the community. It's free for everyone to come and just join and browse around. And each month we kind of theme it a little bit differently. So in April, when we start the events, it's Market on the Square. So it's live music and very springtime. And then of course in like July, which is 4th of July, we do an Independence Day parade, which reminds me very much of like Mayberry vibes because we have a community band and all that kind of stuff. They sound way better than the one on Andy Griffith Show did. I will say that.
Like Barney, that microphone is super sensitive, just barely speak into it.
So and then of course with like our next upcoming one is Labor Day Trade Day, which we'll just have all the kind of old-timey vendors with antiques and stuff, and that pairs really well with Art Sunday, which is in Caldwell Park, which has more like fine arts and pottery and painters and that kind of stuff. So we really like to pair nicely with them. And then, of course, in October, we'll have the barbecue festival. So it's all about, we have cornhole tournaments there. We have a barbecue contest there, live, entertainment. We'll have a beer garden this time. So a lot of excitement. And then we'll end off the year, of course, with Halloween on the Square, which is a trunk or treat event. And then Jingle Bell Square, which will be our Christmas parade, as well as just having vendors and that kind of thing. And so it's a really nice way to wrap up the holiday season, get you in the mood for Christmas and all that kind of thing.
I think Phil's getting nervous and they're working the board because you're talking about Christmas. That means I'm going to want to hurry up with the Christmas tree tonight.
I mean, I tell you, we're already talking about decorating for Christmas. You have to be like 6 months ahead whenever you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about Christmas since like July.
I have too. I love the square in Scottsboro. I mean, it's like a Christmas card.
Yeah,
And then
thank
it's like an
you.
Easter card around Easter and 4th of July. I mean, it's just an awesome place. How do you
Yeah, we're
guys
trying
make
to
it
do a
work?
lot of things. Well, we're
Yeah.
trying to do a lot of different things. And I feel like, too, because of the way our square is set up, it's a literal square. It's a
Mm,
lot easier to decorate and to make things more inviting because you have these smaller entrances and you can put placemaking things there that are themed around the holiday or even just like beautiful objects that will
mhm.
make people feel at home. And of course, the business owners do a really great job of decorating their businesses. And I have to give a huge amount of credit to them because they are what makes the downtown inviting in general. And then, of course, we do things like putting up the lights. So that's something that we have done over the past year. We have hung string lights from the light poles to the buildings above the sidewalks around the square. And we've also wrapped some of the trunks of the trees. And that's just something to make the downtown feel more inviting. Right now we don't have a restaurant that's open past 5 that's on the square. The closest one is Warehouse 207, which is a block away. But eventually we would like to have restaurants and like to have nightlife that goes onto the square. So the downtown is more of a vibrant place, not just during the day. And so we feel like if we can start by bringing people there just to walk or just to see the lights, maybe that will inspire someone and they'll say, you know what, downtown can be a
Mm.
great entertainment district at nighttime, or it can be a safe place. And the lights were kind of a twofold reason. It was just A, they're cute and they're pretty. B, we want to have the nightlife, but also the third reason being is that they provide safety and light for people who want to go into downtown or people who say, well, it might be too dark and too dangerous. Well, now we've lit your path, so you don't have a reason not to go down there.
That's true. And I'll have to tell you, the police force, they're awesome down there.
Yes, we do have a very good
I
police
salute
force.
them. If we're eating out, we'll see a police officer, we'll have to pay for the food. That's how much we appreciate them.
Yes, very much so.
Don't
We have
order
a very
steaks though,
good.
guys, when y'all see me come in.
I'm sure they all will now that they've heard that. But yeah, so we're doing a lot in the downtown, and we recently hung a photo trail signs around the downtown. That's something else that we're doing to try to beautify. So these are hung on all the light poles around the square. And they just are pictures of what the downtown used to look like back in the day. So as an example, in front of Payne's, we have a picture of the original person who founded Payne's and his staff and what Payne's looked like back in the 1800s. And so you can kind of look at that and look at what it is now and compare and contrast. So we've
Mhm.
tried to do that with the majority of the buildings on the square that we could find older pictures for. And they all have captions and like a little, this is what this is about, and here's some fun facts and history about the town. And it's just been a really fun project. And I see people all the time who walk around the square who will stop and read them. And so it's like, it's rewarding to know that people actually like what we're doing.
Mhm. It is absolutely. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we had what we call walkers, and they just
Mhm.
walk around the mall. You can only see so much, but in a quaint town, when you have an outside square and it's really neat outside,
Yes,
I
it's the
mean,
ideal place to walk your dog, take the
mhm.
baby with a stroller and walk around. I see women doing that all the time. In fact, there's a lady who is on one of my committees who takes her grandson and she just walks him around the square when she's trying to get him down for a nap. So it's just really a great place to be.
That's a great idea, and it's great exercise.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, it's carry a little weight with you, even if it only weighs just a few ounces. If you carry that with you, it'll help you lose weight.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's health benefits and you can shop and support the local merchants. I mean, we just have everything for you.
Okay, I got to talk about local merchants. I'm all about shopping local,
Hmm.
and especially with the supply chain the way it is. If you go to a big department store, I mean, really check that out.
I
You'll want to
know.
shop. You'll want to shop local, and
Hmm.
because they have their ways of getting things in, the
Hmm.
inventory, and they know you. They know what you like.
Yes, they do. I think all of our merchants, not even in the downtown, but just in Scottsboro in general, do a really good job of catering to what people in town want and what they need. And I mean, you can find some of the best stuff there for presents for people or even for yourself. I mean, I know that I have found countless things at all of our different stores here in town, and they're just a really great asset. And that's what makes Scottsboro unique. It's not about the big chains, like those are great to have.
Mhm,
You have to have those to get lodging tax or to get sales tax.
mhm.
You need those because that's what helps generate your budget. But what makes your town unique is the smaller local business owners that people go back to, that's a hidden gem that you can write about in different tourism articles that bring all other people who haven't been to this town before here.
And you walk in, they know you, and they go, they know what you like, and they don't waste your time. I
Exactly.
mean, they're just telling you, and you know them well enough. You go to church with them, your kids go to school together, and just, it's kind of cool.
Well, and the thing about when you support local is that typically that money stays local as well because these people live here. So they're going to go to the grocery store and continue to buy locally as well. And that's the thing, is that I feel like it's a reciprocal relationship. If you support local, they'll support local, and your city will thrive more because of that.
I think so too. And I'll tell you something else I like about shopping local is there are no chains of command. Like,
Yes.
I mean, you just ask a question. And the owner is usually going to be, or our managers, it's probably usually family owned, something like that.
Yes.
And you can just ask a question, get an answer. You don't have to wait on somebody to say, well, let me go check with the headquarters and see what they have to say. There's none of that
Yes.
stuff.
The customer service is so much better.
I like it so much better. Absolutely. I appreciate all the things that you're doing for the community. And folks get together, and when you have your trade days, if you're like one of those folks, you like me and you like to repurpose stuff, you never know what you're going to find.
Exactly. I mean, we have everything at Trade Day. We've got people who bring antiques. We had someone who had a cast iron bathtub the other weekend. And then you also have people who are doing handmade stuff. So they make their own wooden signs to hang on doors, or they're repurposing old plates into jewelry. But then you've also got boutique clothing. So we have one boutique actually in town, Vanessa's Boutique, who she has an actual storefront here in town, but on Trade Day weekend, she sets up on the square because it's just another place to get the word out about her business. And so I feel like we have a really good mix of both old, handmade, and new, which I think is also really unique because so many times you'll go to different other vendor fairs and it seemingly is just one type of product. And we do like to get as much variety as possible.
Absolutely. When I give gifts, I like to give something from a small store. I really do, because I'm not going to have, like your grandmother, like my great grandmother. Okay. I don't even know how many grandkids she had. And it's like, you had to risk not getting something for her that somebody else was getting for her.
Yeah.
The neat thing about a small owned business is you get something unique, or maybe somebody who makes jewelry. This right here, this is something handmade.
Yeah.
Right here. And I mean,
it's so much cooler to have a handmade piece than something that you bought at a department store.
And I treasure it. My friend made this. Linda Rakestump made this. And I just love it, and I wear it all the time. So
yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you can find, that's where I do all my Christmas shopping, is at Trade Day. I'm like working the event, but I'm also like, okay, I have to book at least like block off 2 hours of time that I can go shopping at the vendors and get all my Christmas shopping done.
And let's talk about a restaurant that is homegrown. There's a small restaurant. That's another thing, is they have their own unique ways of doing things. I grew up in a family like that. It was called Buck's Coffee Shop out of Oxford, Alabama. My Uncle Buck owned it. Well, he had a recipe for coleslaw. People would come in and just get the coleslaw. It was that unique.
Really?
Yes.
That kind of reminds me of Payne's Red Slaw Dogs, because
Me
they
too.
don't share that recipe with anybody.
They said my Uncle Buck actually died, even didn't give it to his daughters.
Really?
He died with the
He
recipe.
literally took it to the grave.
He did. He did. So, and that's just another neat thing about it too, is that, and people, and you go to a restaurant that's family owned, and they know how you like your steak cooked.
Exactly. And so many times you just get that better service, or they'll be like, you know what, we're going to make you something special that's not on the menu. That happened actually at Payne's the other day when we had a board meeting there. They were like, we want to try out a new recipe on y'all. And it was so good and everyone just loved it. And now it's been a special on their menu for the past like 2 weeks or so. So, I mean, you just get that kind of service.
And also, a lot of them, they buy their food locally too. They'll buy from the farmers market and places like that. So you got some good food. It's not been sitting on a truck for days.
And again, it's a reciprocal relationship. They're buying local, so the farmers can then afford to keep going back into the community and putting their money into the community. So it's a local supports local, which is what we always want.
Absolutely. Is there a farmers market out there anywhere close?
So we do have a farmers market in town. It is on Bob Jones Road. So it'd be if you're on Highway 79. I get my highways confused. I'm not a number, like I know the name of
Me either.
a
I'm like, take the
person. I am
second
a
road,
landmark
second red light.
person. But anyway, if you turn to the left onto Bob Jones Road, it's right behind where Chapman Storage is here in town. There is a farmer's market that's open every weekend.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
pretty awesome right there too, because you're helping a local farmer.
Yes.
And you got good tomatoes. You got all those really good vegetables and people. And if you like to cook, I'd rather do farm fresh anyway.
For sure. I mean, you can actually know what's being put into the products then. You don't have to worry about, coming from another country or coming from a farm that you don't know that's being mass produced. Like, you don't have to worry about any of that.
It's about time for apples to be coming in. People make
I
that
know.
apple butter. Make your own apple butter.
Apple pies, all that good stuff, all the
Yeah,
fall food that's so warm and cozy.
absolutely. Fun things happening in Scottsboro. We just have a few minutes left in this segment, but I wanted to get back in on Trade Day again. And guys, this is really awesome. Are there vendors out there who have pets, maybe chickens or dogs, cats?
So there used to be actually. So fun fact, Trade Day actually started off as Horse Swappers Day back in the 1800s. So people on the Monday whenever court started, because it was actually on a Monday at the time,
Mhm.
would bring their animals and they would trade horses and chickens and dogs and all that kind of stuff. Our mayor actually got his first puppy from a stray from Trade Day back in the like 19, I think it was like he said the 60s. But
Uh-huh.
we don't allow animals anymore. It is an ordinance. So the only animals that we have are ones that are like with the horse and buggy, like they're not for sale. But
Uh-huh.
anything else we have people that bring antiques. Like I said, we've had cast iron, cookware, and we've had the tubs and all that kind of stuff. And I even saw, I think, a butter churn last trade day. So
Oh
you
my
never know
goodness,
what you're
those
gonna find.
churns are nice. I've got my grandmother's churns.
Oh,
And
really?
oh my goodness, and they are awesome. I've got this huge fireplace in the dining room, and so those
Mhm.
churns are set up there. So buy a churn, guys. They are so valuable too. I
Yeah,
mean, there's
yeah, I can
very
imagine.
conversation piece, big
Mhm.
conversation piece. A lot of people just collect different things like Coke bottles.
Yes, and we have had vendors that have brought there was one vendor who collected Coke bottles and that kind of thing. And he particularly was trying to find some that were made in Alabama at the time because we used to have a lot of Coke bottling plants in Alabama. There was one actually in the downtown in Scottsboro for a while back in the day. And so he had brought as many as he could from Alabama to Trade Day. And it was really cool just seeing what they looked like back in the day and seeing all the different logos and the different colors that Coke has gone through to get what they are now. So it's just really cool to see all that kind of stuff.
I got a story to tell you about the Coca-Cola bottling company in Oxford, Alabama. That's where I went to high school. So my
Uh-huh.
buddy Ron that I went to school with started out there like low ball, the lowest end job they had, and built his way up. I mean, he was like big time up there. Made the world news. This was back in the 1980s. He actually fired somebody for bringing in a Pepsi.
I don't
I
know.
heard
That's
about
so
that.
funny.
And so we were living out of town when it happened. So I happened to see Ron and I said, "Hey, is this true? You really fired somebody for bringing up Pepsi?" And there were a few other things, but Pepsi was the big reason why they got rid
Well,
of him.
they expected loyalty.
That's called being loyal.
Yes, very much. That's so funny.
Definitely. All the great things going on in Scottsboro at this time. Let's talk about employees. I know that there are some great things that are going on at the Northeast Alabama Community College as far as training and
Mhm.
certificates and that kind of thing. And man, you
Yes.
can get a good career if you just go follow that career path.
Exactly. No, Northeast is doing a really great job with all of their technical training. I mean, that's something it's great to go to college. I went to college and I really enjoyed my time and I enjoy what I'm doing, but that's not always an option for everyone else. And so getting trained in a technical field is something that we really need now. We need welders, we need plumbers, we need electricians.
Mhm.
We need people who are going to build the infrastructure for the buildings that we sit in, for the different shops that we go to. So I think that it's a really great thing that they're doing that program and they're sending a lot of these kids on co-ops to different companies that need, manual labor like welders, plumbers, electricians, that kind of thing. So they're actually figuring out if that's what they want to do and they're getting that hands-on experience before they even graduate.
And when they're making great money and no college debt. I mean, that's
Exactly.
pretty awesome right there. And I'm going to give somebody an idea about opening up a business on Main Street. I have a friend, and she's not in business now. She's finally retired, but she was a welder.
Uh-huh.
And so she actually made these really unique jewelry pieces, and I kind of picked up that trade from her. And so, and it's unique. So I went to her store one day. It was on Oxford, Main Street, Oxford, a lot like what you
Yeah.
guys have. And
Yes.
so you walked in, and the storefront looked like Tiffany's in New York. I mean, it was just really nice. All those really nice jewelry pieces and the whole work. And then one day she said, "Do you want to go to the back and see where the fun is?" And I said, "I'm dying to go in there." And this is so she takes me back there, and she's showing me how she welds jewelry. And she has all these really unique pieces. So if
Uh-huh.
you're another female welders out there, so you have to think outside the box. You can
Hmm.
make a nice living just making jewelry.
Yeah, for sure. And that would be awesome. We would love to have anyone who's interested on the square as well. That would be
Now, do you
awesome.
have any vacancies right now on the square?
We do have a few vacancies. Anyone who's interested in any kind of building on the square can always come to City Hall here in Scottsboro and reach out to me, and I can get them in touch with either the realtor who's listed the property or the building owner, because a lot of times with these buildings, they've been in families for generations and they're not necessarily publicly listed.
Mhm.
But I do have contacts with all the different building owners in the downtown and can get anyone who's interested in touch with them if it's like something a serious, interest.
Mhm. Well, I think that's a great idea, and I want to throw some real good things out about you. And this is when COVID hit. Well, there's a lot of good stuff I could say, but notable is when COVID hit, and I saw you out there working with people. You didn't think I could see you, but you were out there really helping. You were a cheerleader. You're trying to help people, with their businesses, and there were different
Mhm.
programs and grants out there, and you were on top of it. Thank you for doing that.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, I just kind of felt like there's so many resources and it's so hard to know which ones are legitimate or which ones are good. And being in government, I get sent a lot of those and I get sent the legitimate ones because we have those connections. So I felt like if no one else is going to do it, then I needed to do it.
Well, you did, and it helped folks stay afloat. So and that means a lot. So I know there's a lot of appreciation out there as well.
Well, thank you. I
Now,
appreciate that.
are there any particular type businesses that would really be an asset out there on the square?
Yeah, so I mean, we're always looking for any kind of retail, whether that is clothing, particularly, we don't really have a men's clothing store in town. You can go to Unclaimed Baggage, or when TJ Maxx opens, you can go there. But we don't really have a specialty men's clothing store here, so that would be really useful. Any kind of like a wine shop, that would be something that would be really cool that we don't have in town right now. Also, I would say that any kind of restaurant, I mean, we're always looking for something that will be open past 5 that is a restaurant to put on the square. And we do have some vacancies that I think would be perfect for that right now. It's just a matter of finding the right person and the right time. Like it's all the stars have to align, I feel like.
And you really got to be into it. I mean, when you start a business, I mean,
Yeah.
you got to have high energy, big time.
It's a big
But the
commitment.
key,
And to me, there are a lot of buildings in our downtown that are not in the best shape. So you have to be willing to think outside the box, like you mentioned earlier, and be able to see the potential in these buildings and to be able to go through with that.
Mhm. Let's talk about get grooming employees.
Hmm.
And things maybe what do you need to do to get a job? And I know that times are not like they were back in my olden days. We didn't have cell phones and stuff like that to take your attention away from being
Right.
interviewed. But it's a different world now than it was back in those days. So what are some key things that employees need to think about when they're going on a job interview?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what I did to get this job. So when I saw that it was
Please let
open,
me have it. No.
well, when I saw that it was open, I mean, I just, of course, submitted my resume and answered all of the preliminary questions. But well, I'd been told that I was going to be interviewed. So the night or 2 nights or so before I went to be interviewed, I researched what Main Street, Alabama was. Because to be honest, I hadn't really heard of it. I was still in college, so it wasn't something that I really knew of.
Mhm.
And I researched the organization and I wrote notes and I brought the notebook with all of my notes to the interview and I referenced things and I kind of not necessarily came up with a bunch of ideas for each of the different points that Main Street covers, but for like promotion and that kind of thing, I tried to at least have one or two examples of, well, I don't think that we're doing this event. So here's an example of an event I would like to do if I got this job and why I think it would be useful.
Uh-huh.
And then it's also just like if the business that you're applying for has social media of any kind, look at the social media and see what they're already doing or maybe what they're not doing. so you can make suggestions on that. And I think that that's really important because it shows that you put time into thinking about the job and put time into thinking about the interview.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have hired you on the spot. That is so awesome because you can like do some research about a company before you even go there. And that's a huge heads up.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of the time people don't take the time to do that because it is time consuming. You need to go through and do your research and your homework on it. But I think it's a lot more worth it because you're not going to be thrown for a loop when an interview question pops up that you haven't researched.
That's true. That's true. So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk to some folks. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I have been to some stores in other areas, not your area, where you walk in and nobody speaks to you. How important is it that you greet people when they come into your business?
Well, it's so important. I mean, this is just like case in point. We were in a downtown recently for a conference, and it wasn't in the area where the conference was. It was a town adjacent to it. And we walked into a store and we're kind of not like, it wasn't rude, but we just weren't talked to. And we were just kind of looking around and killing some time, basically. But it made us feel uncomfortable and made us feel like we weren't a priority. Well, then we go into the store across the street and the lady's talking to us and she's asking where we're from. And she's like, oh my gosh, I like your outfit. And we're just having like a normal, nice conversation. And it made me want to actually look around the store more. It made me want to buy things more from her because she seemed nice. And whether or not she had been the owner of that store, it didn't really matter. She still was representing that store at that time. And I feel like that's kind of true with any job, whether you're selling anything or not. You always want to have a pleasant facade and a pleasant face because if someone comes in, they may not need anything from you today, but they're always going to remember how you made them feel. So they may not want to talk to you later.
that is so true. And I think Katie knows I'm a penny pincher. I mean, my middle name is how much is that going to cost? That's my middle name. And so I have been known to walk out of a store when somebody wasn't speaking, they're just not friendly, and actually paid more at another store because they were friendly.
For sure. I mean, if someone makes you feel comfortable, that's really what matters because you want to feel comfortable spending your money. You don't want to feel like you have to spend your money somewhere or you feel like, well, this person was rude, but I guess I have to buy it here. I mean, I would rather spend money in a place that I felt comfortable talking to either the salesperson or the owner, or at least it's a pleasant environment to be in.
Absolutely. Katie, a minute and a half left before we go into a commercial break and before we call it a day. What would you like to tell the folks before you go?
Well, I would like to remind them that there is a trade day event this weekend on Saturday, September the 3rd from 9 to 4 in the downtown square area. And then on Sunday, there's Art Sunday in Caldwell Park, and that is from 9 to 5. So you'll have vendors and food trucks at both of these events. So there's something to do the whole weekend, this holiday weekend.
Absolutely. Katie, thank you so much for being on the show again today.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Let's make this a routine thing, girl.
Yeah.
Oh, and also keep sending flyers and stuff like that, and I'll get them up there on the virtual ads.
Will do.
Absolutely. Folks, let's go into a commercial break. We're going to be talking with another guest in just a few minutes. Thank you again so much for watching Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio. We're your source for news and entertainment. Find us on television, channel 182 on Charter, Abundance TV, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire, and also download the apps for the radio station. Yeah, we have music as well. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Katie. We'll talk to you later.
You.
All right, bye-bye. You take
Bye.
care. See you guys.
Too.